Right, it's an absolutely gorgeous day, and amazingly, even up on my hill there, it's not that windy. It's a little bit of a breeze, but not that windy. And since it's so gorgeous, I thought I would do another Autotune video and just sort of dial into a couple of the things that I've been trying recently with 4.4 out to try and get sort of the best tune that I can. So this is my Chimera. I've recently upgraded this to 4.4, and I'll just sort of tell you what I did to get what I think is a really pretty good tune on this with fairly low effort. So the first thing I can't emphasize enough is you must get the harmonic notch set up properly, and preferably on this one it's using ESC telemetry, or actually it's using BD shot, so the motor RPM is driving the harmonic notch. So definitely really need to get that set up properly, and again, sort of emphasize, people don't know this, when you're using ESC telemetry with the harmonic notch, it's the shape of the notch that is important. So you got these two parameters: frequency, INSH notch freq, and INSH notch BW for bandwidth, and the ratio of those define the shape, or the width essentially, of the harmonic notch. And my sort of first rule of thumb that I've discovered is that when you're using ESC telemetry, using the harmonic notch, you want that ratio to be a quarter, because what happens is you're going to run the harmonic notch on each motor, and I'm actually running the triple notch on each motor, so that's 3 notches, 3 notches, 3, 3, with harmonics as well, so it's sort of more notches on top of that, but it's the ones at the lower frequencies that are ones that might affect your sort of flight performance particularly. So 12 harmonic notches, and they are running sort of down into control bandwidth if you set things up right. So I find a quarter is a good starting point, and actually on this one I think I've got it set to a fifth. So and then the other thing to recognize is that the frequency, although it's the shape that's important, the frequency setting also defines the lowest frequency that the notch will go to. So if you drop the copter, so you throttle right down and let it drop into its own prop wash, what happens is that the RPMs will drop right off, and if you have the frequency set too high, the harmonic notch won't follow the motors down into those frequency settings, and then you get noise sort of building up and affecting the tune. So on this one, I think I've got my minimum frequency set to 40. So I think I've got something like a frequency of 40, and then a fifth is 8, so a bandwidth of 8. Now, if you're going to go that low, you've got to really make sure it's set up correctly, because if it's wrong, you're putting a very hard filter right in your control frequencies, and that's not going to end well. So got to make sure that's set up properly, but those sorts of rule of thumb work well for this one, and that's what I've got it set up here. So that was all set up before. Those are the sort of settings I found work quite well for me. The next thing was frame resonance. So I think I've talked about this in other videos. So frame resonance is a thing, and it affects all of my carbon fiber based copters, all of them, and they all ring like a bell at some frequency. And if you want a really great tune, you've got to really take that out if you can. And this one was really hard. So it was, because what you've got to do is you've got to look at an FFT, see where the resonance is, and you've got to separate it out from the motor frequencies. And the problem with this one is that the frame resonance, I think the base frame resonance is at 75 Hertz, and then there's a harmonic at 150 Hertz and then at 225 Hertz. And the 150 Hertz is really close to the hover frequency of this copter, which is 140 Hertz. And so it's quite hard to separate out the motor noise from the frame resonance. And so you just, if you can be bothered, you just got to do loads of flights, just play around with those filter settings. This is using H notch 2, so using the second harmonic notch, just really play with it until you can just get a nice smooth curve. Let's just turn that off. So yeah, so I did that, and that worked really well and took out the noise. And then onto the auto tuning. So what did I do for auto tune? So so there's a couple of things here. So you want relatively high gyro filter, and the better your harmonic notch setup, the higher you can go with the gyro filter. I think this one is set to, I want to say 150. So gyro filter set to 150. That's pretty high. If you get harmonic notches wrong, you'll toast your motors at that level. But if you got harmonic notches right, that'll work quite well, even on a bigger copter like this. And then the rule of thumb usually is to set filter D to half of your gyro filter, but I've got a new rule of thumb. So new rule of thumb is for yaw and roll, set filter D to half the gyro filter, so 75 Hertz. Sorry, on roll and pitch 75 Hertz, but then on yaw set the filter D to a quarter of the gyro filter. So I set that to 37.5 on this one. So half roll, half pitch, quarter yaw. So on this one, 75. Actually, this sort of oscillates a bit on pitch, so I've reduced filter D on this to 60 from 75. But and maybe that's the sort of, I find with these long range builds, they're a little bit longer. Pitch maybe needs a bit harder filtering, but then yaw 40%, sorry, quarter of the gyro filter. Stop there.